enable the screen sharing.
Yes, madam. Now, yes, now you can share your screen.
Yeah, I have shared it. Is it visible now?
Not yet. We can see you, madam. And you are audible. Madam, you are audible and visible.
I am audible.
Yes.
Okay. Screen is also shared?
Yes.
Okay.
Fine. Screen, 1 second. 1 second. She has already shared the screen.
Sir, give the host or host.
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Is it visible now? Yeah.
Yes, madam. It's visible now. Yes, it's visible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, madam.
First of all, Eldrigu Namaskara. Good morning to all. Chief guest of today's inaugural session, Shri Sharath Bachegowda ji, Honorable MLA, Hoskote. Guest of honor, Professor Kempraju sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Bangalore North University. Another guest of honor, Professor R.K. Ramesh Babu, Joint Director, Department of Collegiate Education, Government of Karnataka, and President of today's inaugural session, Dr. Muninarayanappa, Principal of Government First Grade College, Hoskote, and all the participating teachers, research scholars, student friends, and other invitees. I deem it an honor and a privilege to be a part of this 7-day long FDP organized by Government First Grade College, Hoskote. This college virtually has chosen a very apt topic for this FDP because this global pandemic has taught us a lesson. For we need not have to sit simply wasting our time during this lockdown period. We can utilize it very effectively, being very active, be e-ready and techno-savvy. And we have been observing that almost all the academicians, students all over the country and even globally also, they are very actively participating in online classes, online webinars, and content preparation and sharing of knowledge with all possible peers and the recipients who are the part of the stakeholders. So today, though many such colleges and universities and institutions have been conducting such webinars and e-conferences, international and national level conferences also, the FDP program which is being conducted by this college, that is a Government First Grade College, deserves an applause because I have been observing many such colleges which have been conducting webinars have been concentrating on many other issues other than the impact of this COVID-19, a global pandemic, on higher education and the society. So that's why I told they have chosen an apt topic for discussion. And I'm honored, I told you that, because I have been given an initiation to start with this topic and web to rest of the speakers who can speak from different dimensions and the impact of this COVID-19 on the entire society as such. So the given topic to me itself is challenges and opportunities for higher education amidst COVID-19. So let me start with basically a question, that is, what is education as such? If you look into the concept of education, probably the academic think tank, the philosophers, and very many followers and thinkers in general not just the academicians. Many thinkers have put in their own views on giving a correct picture of, a concise meaning of, a concise definition of education so far. But unfortunately, a complete, precise, clear answer has not been emerged so far, because basically the philosophies with the individual thinker is quite different, and we are finding it difficult to come to a conclusion that this itself is the concept of education as such. So coming to the education, which is as a concept, which is treated as a necessity of life and a social function. So if education is treated as necessity of life in imparting survival skills, if you think that education is actually has given paved ways to make our own livelihood, earn bread. So it has imparted survival skills on the one hand. And secondly, in developing the man's innate potentialities, because each human being is unique by himself or herself. They have their own physical potentialities, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual potentialities. All such potentialities are to be groomed, properly nurtured, and they are to be explored. All those things are possible only when proper education is given. So as education itself is a portion of the society, it's a subsystem of the society, definitely education is a must. It's a necessity of life. And as a necessity of life, education has been making the individual fit for the entire environment in which he is making a living as a social being, because education itself is a subsystem of the society. So that's why education is a necessity, and it is acting as a social function too. With this preamble, I want to come straight away to the subject, that is the impact of this COVID-19 on higher education and society in general. A recent report, which was submitted by MHRD by conducting a survey over during the period of this global pandemic, reveals certain facts. One is there are 993 universities working in India as of now. 39,931 colleges are working. 10,725 standalone institutions are working. And these institutions further reflect the student density of India, as the total enrollment in higher education every year are nearly 37.4 million, reflecting expanding horizons of education industry. So that's why with the amount of expansion in the field of education, this global pandemic has really created a havoc in the field of higher education, maybe through the ill effects. Then higher education scenario, if you look into in the midst of COVID-19, the present gross enrollment ratio is 26.6%. And you're all well aware that the draft new education policy 2019, which was submitted by the committee under the stewardship of Dr. Kasturian, and ably contributed by Dr. M.K. Sridhar, representing Karnataka, wants to take it to that GRE, gross enrollment ratio, to take it to 50% by 2050. But on the contrary, the enrollment will decrease, warranting architectural changes in the educational institutes, especially higher education institutes. The mobility of students will be restricted because of this social distancing, and probably the global scenario would also go under change, drastic change, where the mobility gets restricted. Students cannot move to foreign countries to go for their higher education. Then especially the social sciences and humanities will suffer a lot. Then localization of campuses, that is the need of the hour will be, you will have to localize the campus needs. need-based education should be the need of the hour. Then structural changes in the educational institutes are required. We need to customize. What is required for our students will have to be customized, and you have to offer to students. It can put us a pressure on capital through capital expenditure, because we need to expend more and more on e-content, developing e-content also, and giving more emphasis on or focus upon investment on technology, ICT enabled services, ICT services, developing e-offices, or they all call in for more a capital expenditure on the institutes. And then there will be curricular changes needed. So right now, Government of Karnataka is thinking in terms of bringing both public and private universities across the state. So how far this is going to help, we need to brood upon and give lot of thinking to it, and before we finalize it. So a curriculum which is helpful to the students will have to be developed, and such changes according to the needs of the time will have to be incorporated before the curriculum is given to the students. Then pluralism of curriculum is the hallmark of higher education institutes. So hitherto we used to examine the descriptive knowledge of the students, but now there is a need for looking into cognitive skills assessment also. We need to develop such testing for the students that their cognitive skills could also be examined. So traditional mode of learning may undergo change. That is, very recently UGC has order stating or directing all the universities to offer dual degrees to the students. There are many such add-on courses. There are many certified courses, online courses. For some platforms are offering, like MOOCs are offering certain online courses. E-certificate will be offered by the respective universities or the institutes, so that students can, apart from the regular degrees, they can go for dual degrees also. One regular, one on the traditional mode of learning may undergo a drastic change. Emphasis on blended teaching consisting of traditional and technological interventions. So now blended teaching is the need, because hitherto we were into the four walls, looking eye to eye, having eye to eye contact with the students, and a physical touch would have given the students more comfort. But now it should be a blended teaching, because we'll be online. How far we will be able to reach them, how far we will be able to make them understand whatever we are expecting to give them, disseminate them, is a question to be answered. So we need to develop e-classrooms, we need to have smart boards, we need to develop e-contents, e-offices altogether. So we need to look into these blended teaching methodologies altogether. ICT enabled methods of teaching is to be adhered to. Now we don't have any other alternative. We need to look into ICT and ICT enabled services which can be offered to students. Gradual shift towards online proctored exams also. Not just the teaching alone, teaching and learning on the one hand, and even the exams should also be streamlined in such a way that both descriptive and cognitive knowledge of the students can be examined simultaneously. So departure from descriptive to MCQ method. So hitherto we used to only examine the descriptive knowledge of the students, but now it's up to us to make the relative skills workable, and the cognitive skills are to be tested. And it is only possible if you go through the multiple choice questions and make the students to answer very aptly for these. For this, the teacher and the taught should be trained very properly, because from the teacher side also they require some sort of training, and students are to be made ready to face the testing of their cognitive skills. Teachers' service conditions vis-a-vis funding of research will also be tough. So we have been finding it very difficult as of now to get research funding from various funding agencies. Probably a year ago, the amount of funding the funding agencies used to give to universities and colleges will not prevail in the years to come, because it's not that easy to get funds for research activities because of this COVID pandemic. So teachers' service conditions may also suffer. They will not be in the safe mode, safe zone. Hitherto they were. Now they have to be exhibiting their innate skills, train themselves, give, impart the amount of ability they have to the students through online courses. So virtual internships will come, they exist. Improving their emotional intelligence coupled with the UGC's guidelines for providing psychological support to students will transform the education system for good. In a way, it is true that we are slowly marching towards online courses, online classes, e-content development, true, but this will take time. In a hurry to do all these things, the quality should not hamper. So that's why gradually we need to make the students be prepared for hearing the classes. The pandemic was so sudden that the students were not ready to accept across the state. I'm restricting myself to Karnataka state because we have experienced in our university students saying that we are not in a position to get the amount of online classes or the content which have been given through different modes. So students are not totally have only between 75 to 80%. What about the rest? So is a question, but still UGC has given psychological supports to the students, and they have given a lot of such guidelines which will slowly and gradually transform the education system for good. Then universities and the government of India are relentlessly trying to come up with a solution to resolve this problem. That is, there are a number of such platforms which are created. As I told you that there is MOOCs platform, there is EduTech platform. There are a number of such platforms which have been created by the government of India as well as government of Karnataka, so that the students can get into such platforms to elicit information and get connected to the web world in getting the information from different universities and higher education institutes. So that's why universities and government across, they are relentlessly trying to come out with solution to the problem. A large number of Indian students, second only to China, enroll in universities abroad, especially in countries worst affected by pandemic, the US, United Kingdom, Australia, and China. Many such students have now been barred from leaving these countries if the situation persists. In the long run, a decline in the demand for international higher education is expected. True, and being abroad for high studies and students coming to India would slow down because of this ill effect of pandemic. Then Center for Monitoring Indian Economy had estimated that unemployment will shoot up from 8.4% in mid-March to 23% in early April, and the urban unemployment rate to 30.9% by start July 2020. It's really very pathetic because the right now we had such a severity of 8.4% of unemployment, which will shoot up to 23%, which has already shooted up to 23% early April, and it might raise to 30.9% by the start of 2020, says Center for Monitoring Indian Economy. It's really alarming and very shocking also. The students who procure degrees this year seem to have a bleak employment future. True, because there would not be takers. Even though they are suitable with suitable degrees, the employers may fear of. There are a number of effects of this also. That is, one is work from home. So employment offer which they make might restrict the students who do not suit to the requirement of the employer. So that may ill speak on the employability also. On the other hand, worst affected sectors are tourism, airlines, hospitality, job market, and MSMEs also. So very recently, the central government has come out with a financial package with a nomenclature, Atmanirbhar Bharat package, to boost the MSME sector. To some extent, the MSME sector has been given a cushion, but rest of the sectors are worst affected. So that's why it's very warranting and alarming for us. So what policy changes are to be looked into in the background of the discussion? We need to revisit ordinances, guidelines, statutes, and the very Karnataka State Universities Act 2000. Why is a question? Because hitherto there is a rumor that the students are also demanding on the one hand that government might take a decision to give up conducting examinations in universities, which is not ordinarily possible. Maharashtra government has initiated this step, but it's not that easy because we need to revisit the ordinances, guidelines, and statutes. We need to have some amendments to the statutes and Karnataka State Universities Act, and then take the assent of the governor, and then take a decision not to conduct or conduct examination, depending upon the decision taken by the government. So that's why there is a need to revisit ordinances, guidelines, and statutes, and the very Karnataka State Universities Act itself. Higher education institutes may face an identity crisis, especially public institutes, because their level of preparedness is comparatively less. Maybe fear has come with lessening of the enrollment of the students in public institutes. In the days to come and in the years to come, due to the decrease in the enrollment of students, so the higher education institutes, especially public institutes, may face an identity crisis. Why the government needs a relook. As of now, we have been hearing that the governments all over India, representing different states, have been finding it very difficult to manage this pandemic. So that's why funding for medicines, funding for treatment to the patient, and all, eating away a larger portion of their exchequer. So funding to higher education institutes definitely would suffer, because it may the very government itself of different states may have to have a relook towards funding of these higher educational institutes, leave alone the other grants which can be extended to the higher education institutes. The development grants which the institutes are anticipating will definitely reduce drastically. External funding is less. As a result, pressure will be on the internal funding. So a day has come, generate your own money and run your institute for survival. You have to generate your own money and then run your institute, if possible, survive. So now the situation has warranted us. So we need to think in terms of generating our own money internally. So donations and endowments can suffer. People will not so easily come forward now to donate for higher education institutes, and endowments will also slow down, which would have been a major cushion for the higher education institutes so far. Universities have to customize their educational offer, on the other hand, because region specific courses are to be developed. Universal concept will not hold good. hereafter. So that's why we need to think in terms of customizing the offer itself, educational offer itself, to making it region specific. Suggestions or the changes to be made. Number one, if I'm asked, it's better on behalf of the higher education institutes to offer short-term courses or diploma programs to mitigate enrollment problems. So dual proctored programs should be offered to students so that the number can be increased, their enrollment can be increased. So short-term courses should be the order of the day. New community-oriented programs should be launched, because the very education itself is a part subsystem of the society. So getting connected to society is the need of the hour. So that's why new community oriented programs should be offered. Redesigning the curriculum as per the requirement of the society as well as the students. We need to redesign the curriculum. ICT enabled teaching and learning infrastructure should be developed, that is developing e-content, developing ICT enabled services, then all infrastructure in the form of smart classrooms, and students should be, the students' reach should be taken into consideration before developing all these technology in the higher education institutes. Impetus on continuing the existing scholarships and need to be increasing them, because so far there was a belief on part of the students that we have been given good scholarships for our study, higher education on the one hand, but now this pandemic will have an ill effect on sponsoring scholarships also to students. So that's why we need to, from the educational institutes point of view, higher educational institutes point of view, we need to look into continuing this scholarships to be given to the students and try to increase them to move the students towards higher education. Otherwise, the enrollment will definitely reduce gradually. There's a need for reorienting students towards online examinations also. On the one hand, we have been speaking that online classes are to be conducted, online programs are to be offered, and bring them under a single platform that students can understand the e-content which is to be given to them. But on the other hand, we need to question ourselves, are we capable of examining them online? So here I stress upon saying that here the teacher and the taught should be trained very properly to conduct both online classes and online, especially online examination, because the preparedness is less. So if you say that you have to examine the students online, you have to start from scratch. Are you capable of offering the techno-savvy computer labs where you can conduct examination on the one hand, whether the content which you have prepared will examine the cognitive skills of the students on the other, whether required MCQs preparation is made on part of the higher education to conduct online examination is a question. So that's why you will have to reorient the students towards conduction of examination online. Online proctored exams consisting of audio and video based questions should be prepared, which the higher education institutes themselves have to equip with all the requirements, then they can offer it to students. Multimedia enriched modules will have to be developed to get into online examination. So here I have identified 4 positive impacts of this COVID-19 or higher education. Number 1 is rise in blended learning, because hitherto we used to examine only the descriptive part of the students, descriptive knowledge, the depth, but now relative knowledge, cognitive skills will have to be examined, for which there should be blended learning and examination. So that's why there is a rise in the blended learning. this is a positive impact of this COVID on higher education. Another positive impact is open source digital learning solutions have come up, and the learning management software to be in the new form of the new norm and form of learning will come up now, because we want it or not, we have to go along with, because in the days to come, in the years to come, we have to go digital, we have to go online, and that's a fact. Because of the regular decrease in the enrollment, the students can be brought under a single net, and it is possible online. That's why open source digital learning solutions should be developed. Improvement in learning material, students should be given student friendly materials, e-content, so that the very material is to be improved to such an extent that students can perceive it very easily on part. Rise in collaborative work. Now the higher education institutes may have to think in terms of collaborating their work. Say if certain institutes are not capable of offering online courses, if they don't have sufficient infrastructure, if they don't have money to spend on such infrastructure or technology, such institutes which are really capable of offering such things will have to get collaborated with other institutes so that they can share resources with them and constructively make an offer to the students, because ultimately we need to benefit the students at large. Our intention is to benefit the students at large. So that's why collaborative work should be done, and higher education institutions should come forward readily to accept this. There are 4 negative impacts of this COVID-19 on higher education. One is sluggish cross-border movement of students. True, that is across the state, across the country, it's now we find very difficult students movement. Students cannot go easily abroad for their higher studies. Even if the student wishes to come to other states also, it's not that easy because of this negative impact of COVID. So that's why they themselves will have to restrict to where they are and make a study, and if possible through online process. So this is a negative impact. The second one is passive learning by students. We have been observing from the last 2.5 months after this global pandemic, which has created a havoc in the field of higher education, that students by and large have an apathy towards online classes. So students who belong to urban areas may probably get adjusted very easily to the new and instantaneous change which has occurred. But in case of a rural chunk, rural students, they don't get so easily to adapt it to the new learning process. So a sort of apathy is there. So passive learning, they would not get so actively get adjusted to the instantaneous change, and it might take some more time for them to get adjusted to this newness. So that's why this will have a negative impact on the students, and it will also affect very emotional content of them. Emotionally they get affected. Some students, say very recently we conducted in our university direct students phone in Nera Karyakrama. That is, we conducted several phone in programs to directly get connected to the students to hear their problems. Many students told that we belong to rural area. We don't have access to internet. So that's why whatever online classes you are doing is not reachable to us. So what should we do? So this is a problem, and this problem may be with 20 to 25% of the entire student community. So we need to find out solutions for this. Higher education institutions may have to rethink what to do to bring such students who are outside the platform. Third one, unprepared teachers for online education. We have seen many teachers in many such higher education institutions still to come to this platform because they are not prepared. We cannot blame them. Hitherto, they were accustomed to the descriptive sort of teaching, and then if you expect them suddenly to get adopted to online coaching, probably they are finding it very difficult. So to bring, you need some more time. So this unpreparedness of teachers on online education offering online education is considered to be a negative impact of this COVID. But slowly and gradually, teachers would also get accustomed to the newness. Changing format of student recruitment. Hitherto, we have seen the students going to a particular factory or an industry or an employer, searching for an employment, come face to face, be in a group discussion round, everything they used to clear off, and they used to go to the exact place where they are expected to work upon. But the scenario has changed now. If students have that cognitive skills developed within them, students who make a difference among the students chunk would be selected by the employer. The part of recruitment itself will go a change, a sharp change, which will affect the students' community at large, because students hitherto were used to the regular pattern of recruitment. Now it is online, work from home. So students will be ready to. For that, we need some more time, because here also the unpreparedness of students might hamper the recruitment process also. An analysis of implications of 19 on higher education. So the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. If you speak from the viewpoint of strengths, I have identified the infrastructure revamping is supposed to be one of the strengths of higher education institutes. So whether you require it or not, you will have to revamp the infrastructure facilities you have, because you have to go gradually, slowly for online coaching and teaching. So teaching and learning have to be revamped online. So infrastructure should also be revamped. So e-commerce is on the increase. So e-commerce trade has started gradually improving. Plus points. ICT services have picked up. So it's a strength of us. Virtual and digital classrooms have been mooted. This is also a plus point for us, our strength now in this scenario. E-content development will give lot of impetus to develop a very strong syllabi for the higher education institutions. So this is also a strength. Then we are marching towards e-offices. Government of Karnataka is insisting all the higher education institutes to develop e-offices, paperless offices. This would also help us. This is one of the strengths we have. Work from home. So at ease and work from home is also a strength of us now. This in turn will cut down the cost and the staff also. The number of staff required to perform the job will also get reduced. It becomes cost effective, add as a strength because of this COVID-19. If you speak from weaknesses point of view, the capital expenditure will boost now. More and more investment on technology will eat away major chunk of the investment of higher educational institutes. Teacher and taught reorientation is required, for which you may have to yell more money, because not only the taught is to be reoriented now, you'll have to prepare teachers also. They have to be well trained to offer online courses to the students, because survival question, if you are capable of offering good education online, you can survive. Otherwise, no student will come forward to take your online courses. So it's a survival question. You need to focus upon that also. So it is one of the weaknesses. Students' reach is doubtful. As just now I was telling that the reach is doubtful to 100%. Enrollment also reduces on the one hand, and the other hand, if online courses are offered, students' number will reduce and the reach will also be reduced, and it is doubtful also. As I told you, if you go by the composition, it is 75-25. 75 to 80% of students can be reached and rest cannot be reached because of non-availability of the technology, or students are not that e-ready who belong to rural areas. If you find out the opportunities, on the other hand, advanced infrastructure will be adopted, whether it is required or not now. Necessity is mother of invention. You will have to adopt. So this advanced infrastructure opportunities can be made use of by the higher education institutes. New and changed curriculum for blended teaching requirements is an opportunity now. Why? So now online courses are to be offered to students. The curriculum has to be changed. You'll have to develop e-content for it. Now blended teaching, descriptive on the one hand and cognitive skill testing on the other hand requires blended teaching requirements, and the curriculum will have to be built up keeping in mind these requirements. So this is an opportunity for the higher education institutes to look into. The institutions can become more tech savvy, because even such institutions, I don't know, because this Hoskote College, which is offering this FDP 7-day teachers to the country, can offer such an FDP program, then being located in a rural area, other rural areas, it may not be that difficult. So now we'll have to be ready, techno-savvy. So this is an opportunity for all the rural colleges and other higher education institutions located in rural areas to track down what should be done to utilize this opportunity. There are a number of threats also: vulnerability, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and major portion of it is emotional effect. So students are under depression now because the sudden is so, the shock which has come through this COVID-19 is so sudden, very shocking to the students mass, that they are not coming out of it so easily. They are emotionally affected. So this is a threat for the higher educational institutes to combat upon. So that's why they have to look into the students, large portion of the students. Scholarships and collaborations will also come down. It's a threat for us. But now foreign scholarships will not be so easily available to the Indian students who are in higher education institutes. They cannot easily get into the courses offered by foreign countries also. Collaborations would also be not that easy, if at all. The teachers from higher education institutes in the India either want to get collaborated with the laboratories or technical help available in the outside or foreign countries. It's not that easy now. It would not be that easy now hereafter. So that's why it's a threat for higher education institutes. And the new recruitments will also suffer because of this work from home. The amount of recruitment which used to happen earlier will not happen hereafter. So that's why I have made a small SWOT analysis to find out the implications of this COVID-19 on higher education. And what immediate steps are to be taken for the purpose of facing this pandemic and the ill effects of this pandemic on higher educational institutes. One is offering short-term courses and diploma courses and offering scholarships and fee concession to the students community. This one way of wooing students towards higher education institutes in the years to come, in the days to come, is to offer short-term courses, diploma courses, and offering additional scholarships to boost their morale and get admitted to the institutes. Fee concessions can also be offered to the students. UGC has created many platforms under Swayam, MOOCs, and central government's Diksha platform is offering so many courses, online courses to the students, and students can make use of along with the regular courses which they do, doing these e-courses online also. Dual degree can be made use of by the students. So rapid increase of mobile internet users in India, which is expected to reach 85% households by 2024. Technology is enabling ubiquitous access and personalization of education, even in the remotest parts of the country. True. Hitherto, we were thinking that only 50 to 60% was the reach, but now it is anticipated that it would reach 85% of the households by 2024. The technology will march ahead in all the rural households also and make them ready to accept the instantaneous changes come in the higher educational institute through techno-savvy and technology being adopted by the higher education institutes. The major challenge in edutech reforms at the national level is the seamless integration of technology in the present Indian education system, which is the most diverse and largest in the world, with more than 15 lakh schools and 50,000 higher education institutions coming under the same roof or the platform. It's also important to establish quality assurance mechanisms and quality benchmarks for online learning by Indian higher education institutions as well as e-learning platforms, because the content development will be very diverse, and if they are not brought under a same platform with commonalities, it would be very difficult for the students to receive from their end. So many e-learning players offer multiple courses on the same subjects with different levels of certifications, methodology, and assessment parameters. They will differ from institute to institutes. So the quality of courses may differ across different e-learning platforms. Hence, proper assessment is required. Whether the e-content offered to the students is worth offering, whether they are of standard, good standard, will have to be assessed first before an offer is made, for which a common platform is required. The courses on Indian traditional knowledge systems in the fields of yoga, Indian medicines, architecture, hydraulics, botany, metallurgy, and agriculture should be integrated with a present mainstream university education to serve larger cause of humanity. This is my personal opinion, because we have so many untapped streams left over. They can be brought under a single platform before we offer the same online to them. So that's why with this I would like to end up present with marching legs. Marching legs, because we have started marching towards the future with the pandemic, which is unprecedented. Basically, we are with it now. If we say that we don't want to go with it, we are helpless. We have to go along with that, and along with the COVID impact of this, we need to be revamping of the higher educational institutions with online courses to be offered. So I would like to end up this presentation with marching legs. So thank you for patient hearing, and I thank personally the organizers for having given me an opportunity to speak to so many academicians spread over the whole country. Now I would like to keep the platform open for some questions where some deliberations can be made with the participants. Thank you.
Yes, madam, that was a very wonderful, very informative presentation. Now the platform is open for the participants to ask questions. I don't see any questions in the chat box. Which tells that madam's presentation was very, very clear. Because, madam, you have also given the SWOT analysis of the implication of COVID-19 on the higher education and society. The SWOT analysis was so clear that there was strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges kept to bear open for anybody to analyze the situation. Any questions, friends? Well, madam, you said as preparedness is less on the part of the teachers, the teaching may not be effective. Hence, a lot of academic exercises need to be done on the part of teachers as well as students. Do you think that there should be more of training sessions open for the teachers, and maybe the youngsters, it should be made mandatory, as many of us are not so equipped with the online teaching? Do you suggest that the online teaching training should be made mandatory for anybody who would like to take up teaching profession? Madam, 1 second. Your audio is mute. You need to unmute your audio, madam.
Yeah, now it is audible.
Yes, now it's audible.
Host had muted it. Okay.
Host had muted. Okay, okay. Sorry,
Okay.
madam. Sorry for that.
Okay.
I think this is the best example. We are getting.
Very,
This is the best example. We are getting equipped with all these features.
yeah, the non-response from the delegates itself is a sign that they are not well prepared. Am I right?
Yes.
Because they are new to this online webinars and all, getting accustomed. Yeah, getting accustomed to this new phenomenon definitely takes some time. I would agree. And as you told, madam, that whether there is a need for making it mandatory, the training making it mandatory. On the one hand, it should be made open. That is, these teachers should come forward to get accustomed to the newness early. Otherwise, no student or no institutions will hire them, or those who are already in service also, students will not so easily accept them if they are not equipped totally for this new phenomenon. But making it mandatory initially would be more suffice. It would be more required on part of the educational institutes, because unless it is mandatory, teachers would not accept it so easily.
Okay.
There will be a 50-50 composition. Some teachers might tell that, no, we are not ready. We cannot develop content for this. It's very difficult for us. There are rural students. We cannot reach them. It's all difficult. There are a number of such practical difficulties. So it's very difficult for them. And on the other hand, getting trained the teachers also is a must. That is, first teachers are to be trained. So training should be made compulsory. Whether they are willing or not, it should be made compulsory. They have to undergo a training, mandatory training, and then they have to offer to the students whatever the e-content they have developed, and approved content can be offered to the students. Unless it is made mandatory, it will not so easily be accepted. At least in the initial years, they have to make it mandatory. It's my opinion.
Yes, true, ma'am. True. Because even in refresher courses and orienting courses, I think all these days ICT teaching was more emphasized. Henceforth, online teaching wherein using Swayam, MOOCs, Diksha, virtual classes, Zoom, WebEx, and so many avenues are there which need to be explored by the teachers. And I think if a training is open in these categories, it would be very easy for the teachers to maintain the same rapport between the teacher and the student what exists at present now.
Yes, and in the very near future, such platforms will develop in N numbers.
Yes.
So naturally, you cannot say no to it. You will have to equip as a teacher to offer online education and be e-ready. Yes.
Chat box, there is. Let me check. Yes. No, there aren't any questions, madam.
Okay.
As it was very clear, especially your SWOT analysis gave a very comprehensive picture of implication of COVID-19 on higher education. Thank you so much.
Yes. Rather, I would raise a question to the participants.
Ah.
I would raise a question to the participants. So here, totally 210 participants are there. Maybe like including organizers and all. Hardly, if we consider the number, 180 plus teachers might be there. Whether they accept this mandatory, making it mandate, that is compulsory, the learning of the new technology to go online, would they accept? They can put their answers in the chat box.
Chat box. Sir, can you unmute the participants? Can you please? Yes, there is one response.
Yes.
Very positive response. Many more positive responses we are getting. Yes, of course. Madam, this itself shows that the yearning in the teacher to know better and to be better and to perform the best
Yes.
is always there in all the teachers, because so many responses we are getting now where everybody is typing for the yes madam, for the time being it is needed, yes I will accept. Then there is Devappa who says we should accept it. Then Janaki Valaki says that it should be made mandatory. Chaman Saab says we are all ready for it. Chandrika, little hesitant, I think. She says it would be good only for the time being. And then Vidya says there is a need of training. Nishita, you have to adopt new technology, is mandatory, it should be, she says. Dr. Rajiv says that some of the difficulties are facing, but we need to rectify it shortly.
Yes.
There is Subhash who gives a suggestion that not in the case of research involving with primary data, online should not be done, he says. Yes, essentially this pandemic has opened many more new avenues for us to explore. Is the answer by Sushma Ramanchi. Yes, I think nearly 80% of the participants do agree so far what we have received. The responses.
Which means that the statement which I made while raising a question to the participants will have to be taken back now. So yes. All teachers are ready now. So they wanted some more time to get adopted to, that is true. So unless it is made mandatory in the initial years, probably teachers would not agree so easily. There are teachers who definitely get accustomed to, but there are teachers on the other side, they would not agree so easily. So make it mandatory in the initial years.
For the benefit of the students.
So, and then once they get accustomed to, slowly that getting will become a habit. It yes. itself will become, they get habituated in getting adopted to the newness. Newness will not remain there.
Yes.
It would have become old one. We have already accustomed to. So it would be easy on part of the teachers to go online and teach and prepare e-content, and they design their courses as is desired by the students, as is desired by the society, and they can prepare that e-content.
Yes.
Community make the students. And this is possible only when initial training is given to the teacher also, not just the students.
There is one participant who raises this question. She says that it needs a lot of time to yes. create infrastructure first. Now, what is your opinion, madam, on this?
Yes.
The participant name
definitely.
is
For institutes like you, yes, for big institutes, both public and private institutes, it may not be that difficult to develop infrastructure required, but for the mediocre and small institutes, definitely there will be a bleak future immediately, that they don't have money to fund to these infrastructure so easily. Government support would also not be so easy now, because government is also having some constraints, because yes. it's spending hugely on combating this pandemic. So naturally, government government also gradually reduce, and institutes of middle order and small institutes will have to think in terms many times in terms of investing on such infrastructure which are required to go online. Definitely, it's not that easy. We need to spend money also, and we need to look into to what extent we can accept invest on such infrastructure. I agree with her. It takes its own time.
It's time. Okay. Now I think we are left with little time. And last question. This would be the last question. It is asked by Dr. Raji, Vice Principal of C College, who says that especially taking problems, that is, he gives the examples like accountancy, maths.
Yeah.
There is a lot of problems that the teachers are facing when they take up classes online for accountancy, mathematics, and other practical subjects. So it is very, very essential to find a solution, he says.
Yeah, because right now we are finding it difficult also. Say from the last 2.5 months, we have seen all the institutions going online. True. Theoretical, descriptive portion of the content could be offered very easily. As Dr. Rajesh is telling, offering such quantitative papers or the content of the quantitative papers would definitely be difficult for them. But we need to work out a solution for this also in the near future, because one, we are ready to offer the descriptive part of it to the students through e-content. We have to develop even for practical papers also how to give the students the best out of it, for which we need to do some work on the technology also. We need to look into what development we can make to make a good offer in practical papers also. It might take little time, and I would definitely agree with Dr. Rajesh saying that it's not that easy in practical oriented papers to convince the students, because in the four walls of a classroom and using chalk and board, probably students getting convinced of a problem solving, they would not get so convinced if it is online.
Yes.
Because step by step analysis which a teacher gives being face to face is quite different from offering it online. I would definitely agree. But for this problem also, definitely there would be a solution for which we need to wait for some time and think, making use of the technology available, how best to make possible this practical papers also which can be offered to the students, and the students by and large agreeing with the offer which we make. Hope Dr. Rajesh would agree with me.
Yes. Madam, there are some responses also which I would like to share with you about your talk. It is, Dr. Ashwath Narayan tells that it was an excellent presentation given by today's resource person.
Thank you.
I have another participant who says that in future also we would like to take online classes, and we need to be we need to be exposed to this type of learning. Another participant says that it was really, really very, very informative, and this response is given by Hema Matpati. Thank you, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
To conclude or to give the gist of your talk, I would say that a very solid message that you have given in your presentation is a call for the teachers, a call for the academicians that make use of this, change this adversity into opportunity. Yes. Only then we can think innovatively and come out with innovative means to reach out the students and to give our best to do the best in the education field. Yes. Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. And it is time to give vote of thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Expressing gratitude is the hallmark of our culture. I express my heartfelt gratitude to Shri Sharath Bachegowda, MLA of Hoskote, Vice Chancellor of Bangalore North University, Dr. Professor Kemparaju, Joint Director of Collegiate Education, Bangalore, Dr. Ramesh Babu, for expressing their unstinted support in making this event very successful by their presence. They have boosted our confidence. Madam, you have also said that Government First Grade College, Hoskote, has set an example by hosting a webinar. This college is located in the rural part of Bangalore, yet it has taken this innovative step and has shown that even in the remotest places also, with the minimal facilities what are available, we can pace with the current time and also face the challenges. Thank you, madam. Thank you for your very encouraging words.
Yes. In the crisis
Yes.
also you have made it. You have proven that it is possible. So
Yes.
conducting this FDP program and webinar, definitely you have proven that even in the rural area, such online programs can be conducted, and uninterruptedly the entire session went off, I think. So it was very nice. I was very much pleased to hear even MLA's talk also. It was almost a technical session, I think.
Yes,
It was very nice. I'm grateful to him also for, and even I congratulate all the organizers for taking up this marathon session, which will follow through for another 6 days, I suppose.
Yes, yes. A
So
week
I
long.
congratulate and wish all the success for the entire program. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, madam. Yet my vote of thanks is not yet complete. As I told you, that we have proved, Hoskote College has proved that any rural college can host this, and a rock solid support for this webinar to happen, to come true, is none other than the principal of Hoskote Government First Grade College. It is Professor Dr. Muni Narayanappa, who needs a very loud applaud by everyone, because as you said, madam, it is not so easy, but he did it. And along with, he also motivated the teachers and built his own team, that even the teachers are inspired by the unrelentless work of the principal, because principal being the pivotal person at the helm of the activities, educational activities, by his relentless work, he sets an example and motivates the other team members of his college. And I should say that the dynamic and enthusiastic quality that you find in the teachers of Government First Grade College, Hoskote, is all that has made this webinar possible and successful. Thank you, friends. Tomorrow we'll be meeting again exactly at 10:45. And tomorrow we don't have any inaugural session. Directly, we would start with the resource persons talks, and 11 to 12:30. The topic and the resource person's name would be sent to you on WhatsApp or even on the mail. Thank you. Stay connected with us. Stay at home. Stay safe. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much.
End the-